Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at the next transformation in our list here. On the previous video, we talked about translations, which were shifting our function up, down, left, and right. In this one, we're going to look at reflections. So when we're talking about reflections, we're going to have two options. Negative symbol is what tells us to reflect. So you can see here's our two options. We have a negative symbol. Now I'm going to call this one on the outside versus a negative symbol on, say, the inside, meaning inside parentheses. So those are our two options. An example of the first case would be something like f of x equals negative x squared. Just a very basic example, negative x squared. Now the counter to that on the inside would be something like f of x equals parenthesis negative x squared. I mean, you would actually square the negative so it would become positive, whereas the first one, we're just applying the negative afterwards. So that's the difference between the two. If we have the negative, we'll say on the outside, that means we're going to reflect over the x-axis. Now, when we reflect over the x-axis, let's just actually use a basic line here just to illustrate this. So I'm just going to say we have this line here. If we reflect over the x-axis, we'll be reflecting down here. What that actually ends up doing is it changes all of the y coordinates to negative, meaning we would multiply them by -1 essentially. So if this one originally were 1, 1, we're now at 1, -1. And if this one were at 2, 2, we're now at 2, -2. So it negates all of the y coordinates. Hopefully that makes sense. Now the other option is if we're on the inside, negative x quantity squared. Well, in that case, we're going to reflect over the y-axis. So if we had the same function, and we reflect over the y-axis, we reflect over here. If this one were 1, 1, well, what's going to happen is it changes all the x's. So it's be -1, 1. And if this were 2, 2, it would now be at -2, 2. So it has the effect of switching the other variable. So if we reflect over the x, we change all the y's. And if we reflect over the y, we change all the x's. Another illustration, maybe another function just to show you real quick. If we had little transformations in it, let's say if it was f of x equals negative square root of x plus 5. That would be the case on the outside, so that would tell us to reflect over the x, as opposed to if we had the function f of x equals square root of negative x plus 5. So in this case, the outside is referring to outside of the square root, and in the second one, the inside is referring to inside the square root. So hopefully that's clear there, the difference between those two. To practice this, we're going to be looking at some delta math problems. They're very basic, shouldn't take you too long. And this you're just going to be doing a reflection. To do these reflections, you're just going to click on one of the blue dots and drag it. The green dot helps you move it up, down, left, and right, but the blue dots will allow you to reflect this. So the only thing we really need to figure out is if we're going to reflect over the x or the y. Since the first one is on the inside, you can see it's inside the square root. If you refer back to your notes, inside is a reflection over the y-axis. Y-axis. So y is this one, so it's going to reflect over this way. It should reflect this way. Now what I'm going to do is just click and drag. This is at 1, 1, so I should be at -1, 1 when I reflect it. And that's our reflection. Again, you can see this one went from 1, 1 to -1, 1, change the x coordinates. The other one was at 4, 2. Now it's at negative 4, 2. Let's go and submit that. That's the same problem. That's no fun. All right, same problem. These are very basic and easy. The next assignment that we're going to have is going to put all of these together and will be significantly more challenging. All right, the next one. So this one is a little bit hard to determine, but there's no parentheses or square roots or anything. So this one's going to be, let's say, on the outside. Outside is going to be reflect over the x-axis. So if we reflect over the x, it means we're going to reflect down on this one. Just pick one point. This one is 1, positive 2. So what I'm going to change this to is 1, negative 2. It's going to change the y coordinates. And as long as you put that one in the right spot, all the rest will fall into place. All right, so that's basically it. I'll just do one more here. Whoops. All right, this one is on the inside. Think about what happens. Inside is over the y-axis, which means you're going to change the x's. Now this one, if you're going to reflect over the y-axis, this part of the function would go over here, and this part would go over here. So what ends up happening is this actually would look exactly the same. So you could actually just submit it as is because it's not going to change any. If you wanted to, you could grab and flop them, but you can see it's going to end up being exactly the same function. Just like that. And there we go. All right, reach out to me if you do have questions. Again, this should be a quick, easy assignment. The next one will be more challenging.